The making of global world. This is a little bit funny pic, but what I'm trying to teach you through this pic is that if something happens in one part of the world, it's going to affect the other part of the world also. अब एक एग्जाम्पल आप करंट ले लो. We all are in lockdown. Why? Because of corona virus. है ना? And where did it start from? It started from Wuhan. It's a city in China. And now from this city it has spread to all the part of the world. Almost all the part of the world. And the whole world is going through lockdown nowadays. So we can't say that if something happens in one part of the world, अगर कुछ एक part में कुछ होता है तो हमें कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता. पड़ता है. And this is the best example to teach you. Okay? और अगर हम ancient India में जाएं और देखें तो that time we did not knew about the other continents. If you come to 15th century, till that we did not knew about America or Australia. They were explored, through different explorations, we can say. Through different expeditions, we came to know about them. इसके पहले क्या था? The continents, they used to live in isolation. Even within a continent, there were cities, there were villages which used to live in isolation. All the requirements used to be fulfilled in that particular region itself. But later on, what happened? Interaction started amongst people. People started traveling from one place to another place. They started doing trade, then they started doing investment, and this led to globalization. So if we talk about the definition of globalization, actually it is a process of interaction and integration among the people, among the companies, and we can say governments of different nations. Okay? And what's the process? The process is basically through international trade and investment. And all this is enhanced through information technology also. Information technology तो देखो इसने दुनिया को बहुत करीब ला दिया. आप एक क्लिक पर कहीं भी मनी ट्रांसफर कर सकते हो. वाया फोन आप दुनिया के किसी भी कोने में कांटेक्ट कर सकते हो आज की डेट में. So information technology has also led to globalization. Okay? So whenever we talk about globalization, basically it is a process of interaction and integration among the people. Okay? And there are three types of movements, which led to globalization. They are movement of people. When people are moving from one place to another, then movement of goods and services, and then movement of capital. Capital means money. If we talk about pre-modern world, even in ancient time also, there are examples wherein people used to travel long distances. For example, if we see in ancient time, there were travelers, there were traders, there were priests, there were pilgrims who used to travel long distances, and it was for knowledge, it was for opportunity also, sometimes for spiritual fulfillment also, and in some cases to escape persecution also. Like we have examples of pilgrims and travelers like Fa Hien, Wei Sang. They were from China, they came to India, they lived here, they went back and they wrote in their accounts about India. Then an example you have read in ancient India like Megasthenes. He was a Greek ambassador in the court of Chandragupta Maurya and he went back to Greece, then he wrote about India in his book Indica. So even in ancient time also you get this kind of examples, okay? And when these people, they used to travel, they used to carry goods, they used to carry money, they used to carry values, skills, ideas, then inventions, and sometimes even germs and diseases also. Now we need to write one more word here, that is virus. That's not even in the book. Because currently what has happened? A virus, coronavirus, it has traveled throughout the world. And now it has infected the whole world. Okay? Even the coastal areas also, there used to be trade in ancient time. Then, in ancient time, there used to be a form of currency known as cowries. Basically, they were seashells, and we get example from history that they traveled from Maldives, to India, to China, and even to East Africa. So even in ancient time, you'll find this kind of examples If we talk about this global world, actually we are talking about 15th century onwards, but little bit we need to discuss about ancient times also. And the best example of the making of global world is the Silk Route in ancient times, which used to link the whole world. Not the whole world, although we can say usually Asia and Europe and the northern Africa also. Okay, so Silk Route, it is one of the best example of vibrant pre-modern trade and cultural link between distant parts of the world. And the historians, they have identified various Silk routes. Usually we think that Silk Route was via land only, but it used to cover some sea body also, although they were small, like Black Sea, then Caspian Sea, then Red Sea. As I told you, Silk Route, it extended till northern Africa. Then the Chinese pottery also traveled the same route, and even textile and spices from India also traveled the same route. Then in return, when we were trading these items, what we were getting in return, that was precious metals like gold and silver. We have example like British East India Company or the French East India Company, they used to pay in the form of gold for Indian spices. Even they used to pay in the form of silver to Chinese in lieu of silk. So in ancient India also we have these examples. Then when we talk about the cultural link, these trade links were cultural links also. The best example is Buddhism. Buddhism emerged in Eastern India. You have read about Gautam Buddha and all that. And from India it spread to the different parts of Asia. And that was via Silk routes. Food travels also, Food is also one of the, we can say, best example of the making of global world. Okay, and this has also a lot of, we can say, influence on life of people throughout the world. It offers many examples of long distance cultural exchange also. आज की डेट में आप जो खाना खाते हो ना, या जो आप ड्रेस पहनते हो, it's the best example of global culture. अगर आप 150 साल पहले इंडिया में चले जाओ और आप पता करो कि इंडियंस क्या पहनते थे, क्या खाते थे, it was quite different. Like spaghetti, it's a famous dish in Europe, but actually it was originated in China. Noodles, basically in the form of noodles. It traveled west from China and it became what they spaghetti. Then when we talk about pasta, हमें सबसे पहले क्या याद आता है? Italy, Italian pasta. But actually, it doesn't belong to Italy. It was taken by Arab traders in 5th century in one of the island of Italy that's known as Sicily. वहाँ से ये इटली में गया and it became one of the famous dish of Italy और फिर इटली से ये पूरी दुनिया में spread हो गया in the form of Italian dish. Even आप अपनी country में आ जाओ, आज की डेट में आप जो खाना खाते हो, especially in Punjab, we are fond of आलू का पराठा, आलू टिक्की, आलू दम. So can you imagine life without potato? No. But आप अगर कुछ century पीछे चले जाओ, if you go back 5 centuries back, our ancestors didn't know about these foods. For example, potato, soya, groundnuts, maize, tomato, even chili, sweet potato. They were not known to our ancestors. Actually, it was introduced by the Europeans in Asia. And even it did not belong to Europe also. Europeans, when they colonized America, the local tribals in this region, in South America and North America, they were growing these foods. So they introduced those foods in Europe. And from Europe, when they started colonizing Asia, they introduced these food crops in Asia. और आज की डेट में हमारी ये famous food items है. So food is also one of the best example of the making of global world. Okay? जैसे मैंने कहा कि when Europeans started colonizing America और जब अमेरिका की colonization की बात आती है तो क्रिस्टोफर कोलंबस का नाम सबको पता होना चाहिए. Actually, Christopher Columbus accidentally discovered this continent of America. He was sponsored by a Spanish king, and actually उसे निकलना था इंडिया के लिए सी रूट ढूंढने के लिए. And he drifted towards Caribbean islands. And then he thought that he has discovered sea route to India. And that is why, It was known as India by people in those days, but later on there were other sailors who explained that India is towards east and this region is towards west. So what they did, they said that this is West India and now it is known as West Indies. उसके बाद वो और आगे गए and then they discovered America and they colonized it. Okay, so this is also one of the good example, that is the Great Irish Potato Famine. It's an example from we can say Ireland. Ireland is currently a part of UK. I hope you know. Northern Ireland, not the whole of Ireland. That's Northern Ireland. As I told you, the Europeans, when they colonized the continent of America, they saw people or the local native people growing their potatoes, so they introduced that potato in Europe. And in between, the European population was growing on. This incident is from the middle of 19th century. और अगर आप देखो तो 19th century में जो population थी इंग्लैंड की उसमें 4-fold increase हुआ. Okay, that was from 7 million to 28 million. But उस base पे food production नहीं बढ़ा. तो in between potato was introduced and it became staple diet of people. But later on, around 1849, because of crop failure, and this also happened because of some global climatic changes going on Earth in those days, we relate it with geography also. It led to crop failure all over Europe and even in Ireland also, and there was Great Irish Potato Famine. People started suffering from hunger, starvation, and then it led to Great Irish Potato Famine. And during this famine, around 1 million people died of starvation in Ireland. और इसके double, they emigrated from Ireland to America, or we can say Australia, in search of better livelihood. So think about it कि एक food जिसको आप जानते भी नहीं थे 3 century पहले, वो आपकी इतनी important डाइट का पार्ट बन गया कि जब वो scarcity में गया तो you started suffering from it, and it influenced of your life to such an extent that you have to leave your country, move to some other continent in search of better livelihood. So this is also one of the example ki how things can influence people. Then conquest, disease and trade. In this we are trying to understand about how Europeans, they colonized the continent of America, how there was shift of trade from Asia to Europe. Okay, Indian Ocean, we start from here. There's only one ocean which is named over a country, that is Indian Ocean, and we should be proud of it. Why? Because via this ocean, the Europeans found sea route to India, and India has got a long coastline that's around 7516.6 kilometer. Okay, and this ocean is well known for bustling trade also. All the ships, they cross Indian Ocean, even if they want to go from west to east or east to west. And India has got a strategic location. You have read in 9th in India size and location. So what happened in the 16th century when America was colonized by Europe? What Europeans found there, that the natives of these continent, they were known as Red Indians and even known as Native Americans, and they used to wear gold ornaments. So they were suspicious of these tribals that they have some secret reserves of gold. So there were a lot of expeditions, which were led to in search of this fabulous city of gold, which was known as El Dorado. So what was El Dorado? It was a fabulous city of gold, and there are some mythical expeditions, although none of the expeditions were successful. America actually initially was colonized by Spain and Portugal. Okay, and when they were colonizing, obviously they must have clashed with the local people there. Okay, and in this clash, there was one thing which helped them a lot, and that was germ of smallpox. It's the best example of biological warfare also. Actually, what happened, these Europeans, they had developed immunity towards smallpox. That's a naturally we develop immunity, And when they reached this continent, this germ was new to the local people. Obviously, the Europeans must have released this germ through natural phenomena. You study biology, you know about all this. So when the local people of North America, the local, we can say tribals, they got infected, they started dying of this disease. Thousands of, the locals, they start dying of this disease, and there was a panic among the locals. So what happened? It was quite easy for colonizers to control them and colonize them. इन्हें गन पावर का इस्तेमाल करना ही नहीं पड़ा। और अगर आप गन पावर का इस्तेमाल करते तो सामने वाला उसे छीनकर आपकी तरफ मोड़ सकता है। बट जर्म ऑफ स्मॉल पॉक्स को देखें तो आपकी तरफ वो मोड़ ही नहीं सकता, आपके अंदर तो इम्यूनिटी है और उसके अंदर नहीं है, तो वो नेचुरली मरने लगा। एंड इट वॉज क्वाइट ईजी फॉर यूरोपियंस टू colonize them. Okay, then till 16th century, China and India, they were the richest countries, and the center of trade was towards Asia. But what happened? By 15th century, China went into isolation. Okay, and what was the reason behind this isolation? Because China was quite suspicious of European traders. And then India was colonized by Britain. Indian trade also declined in between. And in Europe, what happened? There was development of science and technology. Modernization हो रहा था. There was a period of renaissance there. And industrialization भी यूरोप में हुआ. So what happened? Europe emerged as a center of world trade. So the favorable position of China, that was the center of trade where it was China and India, and now what happened? It shifted to Europe. Europe may be poverty hai, do remember, during that time, and many people, they fled from Europe in search of better livelihood to America and Australia. We'll talk about this in detail in the next section of this chapter. Biological warfare, हमने discuss किया germ of smallpox के बारे में. Okay, so I would like to give you a statement of one of the governor of the Massachusetts Bay Colony in New England. New England is actually a colony of Britain in North America. So this governor was John Winthrop. Okay, और इसका statement क्या है कि जो smallpox है, it signaled God's blessing for the colonist. Okay, that means उन्हें लड़ना तो पड़ा ही नहीं. ये God की blessing की तरह आ गया and it was quite easy for them to colonize the whole area. तो इस section में इतना ही रखते हैं. The next topic onwards will start in the next part 2 of this lecture.